Welcome, everybody. We've got an amazing guest here today and some, exciting news recently. But welcome, Krystan Resch, the head of partnerships from Zoominfo.
Thank you for having me. Excited
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to congratulate you on the recent success of Zoominfo. We've heard all about the news, and it seems like over the last 2 or 3 years of working together, that I congratulate you once about every 4 months because of or less than that because of an acquisition or huge news. But this is great, so congratulations again.
Thank you. Yes, it has been a wild ride, and we're not done yet. So a lot of exciting new things coming here from us, and specifically our partners as well. So integrations like RingLead, we're pretty excited to see kind of what our new world's going to look like.
Amazing. Well, maybe we can get started by, just jumping into some background on Zoom. How long are you guys in business? What your story looks like?
Yeah, so we were founded back in 2007 by Henry Schuck, our co-founder, and we essentially started as a tiny startup. It was Henry and a couple friends in a college house, essentially, with $25,000 that he took out of his credit card to try to start this business up. And really, he saw the need for building out organizational charts for companies to be able to better sell to the right people within the companies they were trying to sell to, specifically enterprises that become a very complex sale. And over the years, as we grew as a company, and then we went through some different acquisitions to broaden our global reach, our scope of companies that we profile in terms of size and the different industries that we cover, all of a sudden we got to this place where after the acquisition of Zoominfo, we are definitely the largest global B2B database that is available, that is not only gathered through technology means, but has a human research aspect to it. And now we are also an intent provider and other things that are coming from the information and the data that we have. So we're one of the largest B2B kind of market analysis tools available as well.
That's pretty exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about the main problems that you help your customers solve?
Yeah, so the main problems that we help our customers solve, and I'll pull up a visual here because I believe it'll be easier. So everybody starts at a place where they are trying to figure out who are they going to go after to do business with. And again, these are businesses doing business with each other. And so the first and foremost thing that everyone has to do is define their target market. Who do they want to do business with? So we have different data points, over 200 plus data points that let you identify those attributes that are most important to your business so you can find those types of companies. From there, you've got all this criteria that can be used for searching and filtering. So we can take this universe of the US or of the world globally and say, I want to find all companies in banking, and I want to find them of a certain size, and maybe I want them to have a certain size sales team or operations team or HR team. And so you can start to get very specific to identify what those target markets are and how many businesses are within those markets. From there, you start to predict and prioritize based off of signals, whether they are interested in your product right now or the topic of your product from intent data, for instance, or maybe they're using a certain type of technology and that technology is a partner solution, maybe it's a competitor. You can start to use those types of signals to prioritize and kind of monitor those accounts to say, yes, these are the ones we want to go after. They fit our criteria and they're fitting the signals that we see as early signs for adopting our product or for acquiring our product. The platform itself is very easy to use for both marketers, operations, and sales teams. So anybody within the go-to-market arm of your business. So we've got everything from the platform itself to integrations within major CRMs and other partner products like RingLead. In addition to that, Chrome extension that allows you to kind of use it while you're surfing the web, specifically out on maybe LinkedIn, where you're not going to have a phone number or some of the more business-oriented detail for their profile, whereas LinkedIn is our kind of our personal resume. From there, you're going to have a bunch of information and detail regarding like our inside scoops, where we're actually surveying these companies and trying to find out things that are going on within those organizations that might not be public information. We're not disclosing any personal information about those that are sharing this information with us, but by all means, it's giving us an understanding of their propensity to buy. So those tools are made available to our users as well, so that they can really be informed when they're starting their sales cycle and make sure their positioning is correct for that particular person and company. From there, we've got lots of different built-in functionality to email and call and do a lot of that tracking as well. A lot of partnerships we have are with our sales enablement partners, where they're actually making the data active and really starting to like work on that conversion metric. And from there, that just kicks off your sales cycle. So a lot of these things are in the pre-planning phase, whether it's marketing ops or sales ops, where you're using the data to target the right people with the right message at the right time. And then from there, you're then enabling your teams with as much information as possible so that they can really impact their conversion rates.
That's a broad suite of application, and you know, those are all huge problems, obviously, that you're helping solve. Are there specific verticals that you guys focus on serving?
Yeah, I would have said a couple years ago, yes. And as of today, I will say no. At this point in time, if you are a company and you have any type of B2B arm to your business, whether that is a division, whether that is your core business, we have the contact data that would serve your sales and marketing function. I will also say that data is finding many other use cases outside of maybe the audience we're talking to today. Very much so, the data can be used for other types of analysis, security analysis, and things of that nature. So we're finding incredible possibilities that this data can do in terms of machine learning and AI because of its accuracy and its coverage to give the, kind of a full scope of the B2B market.
It's amazing. What about geographic locations? Are you guys focused in terms of your internal sales on locations? And then the data set, is it, better in certain regions of the world or worse? And,
So I would say that from our position, we are looking to work with companies now globally. We are still primarily a US-based or headquartered company. However, we do have different offices throughout the world that we're starting to look at. And so as we start to grow, our presence in other regions is going to grow. However, I will say the coverage is already likely represented in those areas. So we work with companies that are located all over the globe. Whether they're in another country and they're selling to the US or they're selling to their local market. I would say predominantly English-speaking countries have been our most predominant customers globally. However, we've seen that change throughout. We're now very well represented throughout most of the EU, definitely throughout APAC. I will say there are going to be certain regions where the data collection is a little bit more difficult, specifically when characters in languages change. So accounting for that with some of the AI is a little bit difficult sometimes, but it is a place where we're making tremendous progress. And so I will say there is full global coverage for the database itself. And we as a company definitely are pushing towards a global expansion.
That's exciting. In terms of, the question here is, do you consider yourself an enrichment provider, list provider, or both? And if in fact you provide net new lists of contacts, how can you assure that there are people that have like opted in or that are okay to reach out to?
That's a really good question. So I would look at us and think of us as a data provider, right? And we are a data as a service. So you are effectively leasing the data from us. So that could be for net new list acquisition. Maybe you're building out your business and you need contacts to go communicate with. Or it could be that you have a Rolodex where, a CRM, a legacy system, you've been around for 45 years, but you have all this data and you guys know it's not any good. And your sales reps tell you all the time it's not any good and you need to enrich it, you need to clean it up, you need to get the garbage out, and then you need to replenish it with better data. I would say we fit into both of those buckets, and we do both of those things really, really well. And so in terms of that, though, the question does always come down to, are these contacts opt-in or opt-out? They're neither. So the key to our methods is that we are the data miner, and then our customers are the data processors. They're the ones who are actually engaging with these contacts in the initial onset. I will say that you need to be mindful of your marketing automation systems. They may or may not have rules around the use of third-party data. So it is important to know those and how you're going to engage with your customers, especially through email marketing. But I will say that we do respect the laws of each country and or state, province, when we are collecting the data and mining the data. So for instance, there are laws around that, around GDPR, CCPA, CASL. So we are very respectful in how we are mining the data, storing the data, and then licensing the data. And that is essentially where our handoff of responsibility comes to our customers, where they are then also responsible for being compliant in those areas as well.
And you guys do have an API for GDPR compliance, correct?
Yes, we do. So we do have a new compliance API. It's not just for GDPR, but it does essentially help with any country or state now that has its own specific compliance laws around data privacy. So there are different flags within the API that can let you know very quickly whether or not this record is in an area that you need to be aware of from a compliance perspective, so that your workflows or that your processes can take off from there. And it is built in a way that does not require a bunch of additional coding or parsing of our data, things of that nature. It's really built in a way to be kind of like easily plugged in and activated.
Very cool. Do you know how many business and person records are available in the global data set?
It's a great question. I believe the last time I looked, I can't remember on the companies, but I will tell you that we are very clearly over 100 million records. I would say it's probably tapering upwards of like 110 right now. So we are continuing to gather more and more data. I will also say that this new database was launched back in September of 2019. So this new technology that's doing all of this gathering, it wasn't just from our legacy systems. We didn't just combine the new data or combine the data and say, hey, we've got 100 million records. We actually rebuilt everything from the bottom up. So these are 100 million records that may or may not have existed in previous databases that we would have acquired and or have owned. So from that perspective, we are growing that database very, very quickly.
That's amazing. Do you know about, because you guys have made acquisitions, right? So there's the DataExchange acquisition, RainKing, Zoominfo. So I'm guessing each one of those companies not only had their own unique record base, but they also had some unique field values or attributes. So across your entire catalog, do you know about how many attributes of data that can be found across, those people or company records combined?
Yeah, now with the new intent product that we've just rolled out, we're close to, I want to say, about almost 300 plus attributes. And so that's given us new things like IP matching attributes or intent attributes, news, and what we call our scoops attributes are now included in all of that through both our API, our partner products, and the platform itself. So we definitely have the most unique attributes available in the market. And the interesting part about having that much data is that you can create more attributes out of those things. So
yeah,
we're
absolutely.
finding new opportunities for us to be able to collect something like how many hospital beds does a customer or does a hospital have, or how many people are in a department or have a certain job function. So we are starting to become more and more granular in those attributes as well, as long as they obviously fit our standardization thresholds.
That's super cool. How about when you match data? So if I'm to send you a person or a business, what do I need to send you in order to get a match back?
Yeah, so in most cases, it's as simple as an email address and or a web domain. Those are the two most unique identifiers that we use for matching. However, we do have other means of being able to match. So because of the scope of the database and we are maintaining it for accuracy, we can match against addresses, we can match against IP addresses, we can match against first name, last name, title, company name, to find individuals. So there are many products within the platform, including our list match function that allows you to actually take your lists and based off what data points you do have available, see what it can match in our database. There is some limited functionality there in terms of what data options you have available, but the API and our data services teams can do that against any data point that we do have available. That's a unique identifier.
Wow, that's impressive. Have you guys fully merged the Zoom data set with the DiscoverOrg data set? And if so, how are you managing the client transition onto the new database?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yes, we definitely have merged the two from a conceptual, standpoint. Architecturally, we really built the thing up brand new using concepts from both or architecture from both. So very much on the Zoominfo side, it could be the larger collection method, whereas on the DiscoverOrg side, it was the research processes and the QA on the data. Those things from an architectural standpoint have completely been blended together for the new product. And that also incorporated the data nice technologies aspects and some of the ranking predictive stuff that we acquired, and our Kamiko inbox AI is part of that. Never Bounce is part of that for email validation. So all these acquisitions we made over the years have now built out this new architecture that we have for the new platform. In terms of our customer base though, we do have customers that use just the Never Bounce platform. We still have a few customers that are just simply using our Kamiko product. And we do have legacy Zoominfo and legacy DiscoverOrg customers. We've already migrated everybody else from iProfile and the ranking acquisition. So those guys are all DiscoverOrg customers. But as far as those go, all of our customers are in a phase of some sort of phase of migration. Those that have been, coming up for renewal or have opted in over the last few months have been migrating to the new platform. We've seen the adoption rate on the new platform skyrocket, which has been exciting. And there's a large appetite for that at this point in time. And then we do have some that are, going a little slower and will take some time to transition over, but we are looking to transition everybody to that new platform, that new experience, which will be the core experience of our product moving forward.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. There's a problem that is very hard to solve that not many companies in the data world have even tried to tackle, and it's hierarchies. So I know, dating back to the old DiscoverOrg days, that was one of the things I'd hear about. Oh, wow, they've got great hierarchies. Can you talk about how you help companies build out corporate hierarchies?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really where this is really where our research team comes into play. Companies are all structured completely different, not only from their entity structures, but also from their internal structures. That's where the name DiscoverOrg actually originated from, was this concept of org chart. And we were talking about the internal people of an org chart, but that same concept is true for hierarchy of company. And so as we are going through the database, we are looking for where are these, larger entities, where do they reside? Where do their people reside? Where are they in terms of locations? How many locations? How many people at those locations? What are those physical locations? That type of visibility is available, and there are unique IDs associated with those from like a query standpoint. And then addition to that, you then have the subsidiary structure. Something that is somewhat unique about ours is not only do you have the parent-child relationships that are available in there, but we do represent if there are brands. So the brand Air Jordan, for instance, might have folks that have not at Nike.com, but they're at AirJordan.com. So there are brands that could be represented in there, both with people or without people native underneath them. And then there are also going to be defunct companies that were acquired, companies that no longer existed, brands or lines of businesses that they've discontinued, but that data still exists somewhere and you might think it's good data. So we keep that available as well. So there's some visibility that is no longer good data. You can check against it and you can kind of clean up your systems, but all are represented.
That's great. I've always kind of known Zoom and Discover for many reasons, but the most popular thing I hear about is, hey, they're the best at finding direct phone numbers. But are there other attributes in your catalog that you would deem as most popular?
Yeah, I would say the technologies is probably one of the most popular aspects of our database. With the coverage of it, especially through the DataExchange acquisition, has been, noticeably different. For someone who's been in this database every day for the last 8 years, I can tell you it's very noticeably different. And then in terms of the detail around that, the ability to set alerts on when companies are adding or removing that type of technology, that's becoming a really popular functionality. I will say that from our end users alone, I think the Chrome extension is probably one of the most important tools that somebody can have if they're in a sales role, because you're inevitably out on the web searching for more information, trying to find context for a conversation, trying to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, for instance. And that Chrome extension doesn't require you to log in every single time or toggle between tabs. You can just quickly open it, search the database, look at a contact profile, quickly see a phone number, and put that kind of into action. So the adoption of that has been incredible to watch for the new platform. And then, yeah, I would say lastly is Enrich, especially within Salesforce. I would say that's our next most popular thing that everybody, and if you're in sales operations or revenue operations, you need a clean CRM and you need a clean marketing system. And so seeing things from a data orchestration standpoint, and then also obviously users of RingLead, that enrich functionality to clean up databases and keep them maintained as records change, definitely kind of what we're becoming known for.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that the customer base of Zoom and DiscoverOrg was built around the sales persona, right? And I've actually seen a lot of this where just about every salesperson I know knows what Zoominfo or DiscoverOrg is, and then the marketers know about it too, right? But I'm wondering how do you help a customer who is typically a sales user, transition to getting their marketing and marketing ops teams involved to digest the information at a more of a scale?
Yeah, I think it comes down to your team alignment. So I always go from sales, I look at sales ops and say, from a sales ops perspective, what does that support look like? What does that conversation between sales and sales ops look like? Is that clearly established? How does sales ops support? What are they tasked with? And really, how are they also measured? If they're measured on their ability to impact conversion, that conversation becomes much more easy to go to marketing and say, we need to have better conversion because that's how we are scored and that's our impact on the sales team. Here are the things we need to do in order to optimize conversion. And when we start looking at the kind of the full funnel for your revenue sales and you look at where you can really optimize, that's where all of a sudden it becomes a marketing ops and a sales ops conversation, and you're starting to bridge that gap. And once you get marketing operations and sales operations kind of aligned as more of a revenue operations team, because it's end to end, that's when we get to this place where marketers are like, oh, I can be using this now for creating audiences for display ads, or for my SEO strategy, I can get an idea of kind of where I want to spend my money. Like, you start to be able to pull out more of those insights, because from the time somebody comes to your website or the time you start targeting them, you have a consistent methodology of how you treat data through the sales cycle, through the close cycle, and then even through the retention cycle. So getting that ops layer really kind of aligned is key. Yeah.
Speaking of aligning sales and marketing, do you have any services or products that help identify ideal customer profiles? I know that's a huge topic with our audience.
Yeah, we sure do. So there are different ways that you can build audiences inside of Zoominfo. We do have a place where you can build out different ideal customer profiles using the different attributes that we have available. Those particular tools are very easy to use, and they make available most of the data points that we have in terms of creating those ideal profiles. Those can then be added to any audience that you build. So it is used as a prioritization engine in terms of your list building or kind of the audience you're trying to uncover. And then those types of signals can also be sent through different applications we have, whether that's the Salesforce application or through, say, partner integrations as well through the APIs.
Nice. I know a lot of us are trying to adopt intent data into our processes and our analysis and scoring, but one of the daunting tasks there is sifting through the thousands of keywords that a vendor offers and having to be the decision maker on what keywords you actually want to subscribe to. And so I'm wondering, do you guys help your customers figure out what intent signals are actually important for their business, or do you find that they come with that knowledge firsthand?
Yeah, so we offer a couple different things. Initially, when most of our customers are coming on board with our sales team, they'll run through a couple different exercises. The first is generally a data enrichment exercise or a sample group, because from that sample exercise, we can tell you or give you some analysis over, hey, the group that you gave us or the sample size that you gave us, there are this many customer or this many of these contacts or these records are represented by this department or represented by a certain job function or represented in a certain region. So you can start to kind of provide some of that high level analysis back to our customers through some of our data services, enrichment requests. And so generally most customers are going to experience something of that degree if they're really talking about operationalizing their data and kind of going through that market expansion conversation. The other thing that we started during COVID actually is to say, what can we do to give your business kind of a health scan analysis as well? So it's a similar idea. It's generally against like your one loss data because what a lot of companies found is that during amidst the pandemic, business had to shift. So companies that they may have not traditionally gone after all of a sudden became companies that they should be working with. We work with, there was an example that gets used often, but there's a company that is essentially selling tents, and they sell tents for events and concerts and things of that nature. Well, amidst the pandemic, they found themselves not being able to do anything with events because all of that was canceled. And they thought, we got to pivot our business immediately. What do we know about hospitals? Hospitals need these right now for these outpatient testing centers and things like that. But we know nothing about hospitals. We've never sold to hospitals. So talking to Zoominfo, we helped them identify the hospitals that would be the best for them to go after. We got them the right contacts to communicate with over there, and they were able to pivot their business really quickly amongst kind of all this confusion into a brand new market. So the data services tools we have, some of the health scan things that we can do and make available to our customers help provide a lot of that kind of high level market analysis they might need to make big decisions for their businesses.
It's amazing. Just got a couple more questions, turning the page to the COVID, situation. What are you guys doing to keep your contact data fresh during what I would consider like the great turnover of my generation in data, just all the turnover in jobs and stuff?
Yeah, through a lot of the automation, we catch a lot of it. So one of the most unfortunate things of being terminated from your job is that your email goes dead. And that's not always true. At the executive level, they might keep it open as a honeypot or a spam trap or things of that nature. But in a lot of cases, we will receive some type of error message. And those become some of those early on signals that we know, hey, something's changed here. So we always look for change signals first. We've got lots of different other automated ways that we can essentially verify someone's employment or verify the deliverability of their email address or the responsiveness of their email address, things of that nature. So we're using as much automation as we initially can. Some of the more difficult positions, especially at the executive level, when you start running into this kind of more of a, the honeypot type thing, that's where the researchers come into play. So our researchers are still QAing the data and validating data on a regular basis. It's just an escalated path before it gets to them. They're not just the miners anymore. They're more the QA on it.
Gotcha.
So, that's essentially kind of how we're maintaining everything. And trying to do so without scraping things off of, LinkedIn, for instance, where I might not want to tell the world that I've lost my job, right? So I'm not going to
Yeah.
for a long while. We don't rely on anything like that for our job changes.
Cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Last question. Do you offer any freemiums or easy ways to try before you buy? How do you remove friction from that new customer process?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are interested, you're welcome to go to zoominfo.com and sign up for a free trial. We do have free trials available to anyone who has never received a free trial and or is not already a DiscoverOrg or Zoominfo customer. If you are already a legacy DiscoverOrg or Zoominfo customer, you can request a trial from your account manager though. And we do make those readily available for anyone who's interested, to say the least.
Very cool. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us today. You offered a lot of tremendous value, and I think we all learned a lot about what you guys are doing, and we want to wish you all the best of luck moving forward in these exciting times for where you guys are at.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.